The brutal truth about Memorial DA1Y, in the bustling heart of Onitsha, where the Niger River breathes life into the city and the smell of roasted maize mingles with exhaust fumes, the streets were alive with colors, noise, and a strange energy only Memorial DA1Y could summon. To an outsider, it looked like another festive excuse: young men on Okoda speeding past traffic, women with elaborate girlies parading down the market with hot jollof tucked in plastic coolers, and gospel music blaring from cracked speakers rigged onto rooftops. But for those from the East, true sons and daughters of Ola Igbo, the day cut deeper. It wasn't just celebration. It was remembrance. It was pain wrapped in lace. It was laughter choked with tears. Memorial DA1Y wasn't on the national calendar. It was our scarred, sacred, and mostly misunderstood. Chika Donsi Okofor, a 29-year-old content creator who had recently returned from Lagos to bury his grandmother, had no intention of getting involved. He thought he had escaped the weight of ancestral grief. But standing at the Upper Iweka roundabout that morning, something felt different. The street preachers were louder. The vigilantes more sober. The Ozo title holders more regal in their ivory tusks and flowing ISI Agu ropes. A portrait of a boy no older than 15, mounted on a wooden billboard, stared back at him. Igbo NWA Biafra. Ima Chokudi, 1952–1968. Just below, the words "he died for a country that never came." Don C's phone buzzed. Another influencer group. Chat filled with memes and #Memorial Day content trends. They were pushing new hashtags: #Never Forget 1967, #Igbo Lives Matter, #Biafra Legacy. Don C rolled his eyes. Most of them had never even been to the East. To them, this day was branding, clicks, and cloud. But here, the soil remembered. The soil still cried red. His cousin, Amarachi, emerged from the crowd holding a small box wrapped in okra. "You should come to the square," she said. Papa Nwachukwu is telling the real stories today. Curious and half reluctant, Donsi followed her through the sea of mourners and celebrators, past the brass band trumpeting through Augusta Road, past school kids in khakis holding wooden rifles, through the smell of old incense. Until they reached the square in front of the Obi's palace. Hundreds had gathered, seated in plastic chairs shaded by canopies branded with old telecom logos. At the center stood Papa Nwachukwu, a war veteran with eyes like cracked coal and a voice that still carried the echoes of command. He wore a faded beret and clutched an ancient photograph of men in tattered uniforms. "Una dey hear me?" he shouted. The crowd murmured in agreement. "Then listen well. Memorial DA1Y no be fashion parade. It no be party. It be reminder. For 30 months, them cut our food, bomb our schools, kill our children. These same people we call brother look us like animals. I dey here today because God stubborn." Don C found himself glued. The old man spoke with fire, naming villages wiped off the map, narrating tales of mothers who boiled tree bark to feed their babies, soldiers who rode their wheels on cigarette wrappers, and children who grew old in 3 years of war. He paused and held up a bullet-riddled diary. "This be the only thing we get from my brother, Udo. He be just 19. Them shoot am in soccer. He write say, if I die, make sure my story no die too. That not why we dey here. To make sure the story no die." A heavy silence fell. Even the Kiki Nepep drivers paused. Amarachi opened the box she had carried. It contained 3 white doves. She released them into the air, and as the birds soared above the city skyline, the people clapped, some sobbed. Don C's chest tightened. He remembered his mother's tales: how she lost her twin brother during an air raid. How she still cooked extra portions every Memorial DA1Y as if he'd return. Later that evening, Don C walked alone through the Red Cross Memorial Park. It had been revamped by local youth and artists. Graffiti murals now lined the walls, vivid, haunting depictions of starving children, brave mothers, and the symbolic rising sun of Biafra. One image particularly struck him: a young woman cradling both a rifle and a baby. Beneath it were the words, "Survival is resistance." He met Namdi, a tattooed poet who now used Memorial DA1Y to perform spoken word in Soka dialect. "I lost my father to war I never saw," he said. "I carry it in my heart. Not for revenge but for memory. You get? Don C nodded. Speechless. Back in his hotel room that night, he went live on Instagram. Not the usual skits or paid ads. Just his face against a black background. Today, I saw what they don't teach you in school. I saw what survival looks like. And no, Memorial DA1Y isn't about politics or clout. It's about knowing where you come from so you don't forget who you are. His video went viral. Not because it was flashy, but because it was raw. Real. Youths from ABA, Enugu, and even faraway Abakaliki began sharing their own family war stories. Suddenly, #Memorial DA1Y trended not because of influencers, but because of truth. The next morning, Don C stood at his grandmother's grave, holding a flower wreath and his phone. Mama, I dey learn. I dey try understand